if it's a feeling that comes from inside of them, how do you help them from the outside?
Honesty and truth, and make sure that we are communicating out of pure knowledge.
That can be so tough when there are negative emotions or ramifications,
So hard.
That it's affected them.
It is worse for the person that doesn't forgive than it is for the one that commits the crime.
Hate can evolve from the person receiving it. And that's poison. That'll just burn through you for as long as you hold it.
I didn't cause this pain, but it's my responsibility to let go of it. Otherwise, it's going to ruin my life, period. Then, as soon as you are able to find meaning in the suffering, then the suffering is over.
Acting on emotions as guides to truth. Stillness. Surrendering to what is. Seeking. Using my gifts with purpose. Light. This is the emotional blueprint.
So I want to start off by asking you a question, Ernest. Why is it that so many people struggle with self-worth?
I think that it comes from multiple places, and that can be tough because it can be affected by multiple different areas of your life. Like the way I see it, at least, is like your parents, your relationship with your same sex parent can affect your self-worth. And then you've got, what is your experience in school? Your social experience going through middle school and high school, that can potentially affect your self-worth. And then it's like relationships and mistakes that you've made, and whether you're religious or not growing up, can all affect from different places, can affect worth, I think.
It's interesting what you're saying. What comes to mind for me is that when I think about self-worth and what I see with people I work with, it's like there's basically two aspects of self-worth, if we want to simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
The first is, what do I think about myself?
Mm.
And then the second is, how do I feel about myself? Now, the mistake that people make is they believe that basically all negative emotions come from thoughts. And that's not true.
Yeah.
A lot of them do, but not all of them. So then the narrative in our popular culture of like how to deal with self-worth is like, you got to have the right mind. You got to have a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, these affirmations about yourself. You got to talk positively to yourself. You got to build yourself up. You got to think you're amazing, all this stuff. And it's like, that's only 50% of it. Actually, I would say it's maybe less, but we'll just say it's 50.
Okay.
So what I see a lot is these people who, they know that they are worth it. Mm-hmm. They know that they have value. They know it intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start going throughout their life. They go on a date, and then they have a chunk of anxiety that comes up out of nowhere. And they're not confident on that date. Mm-hmm. Or they have a bunch of shame come up in a work interview, and they feel like they are flawed and that they suck. And then they're not actually confident. So it's what we think, it's what thoughts we hold on to, but then it's how we feel.
Are there certain feelings that matter more than others that will stick? Or certain types of scenario, like relationships or something, are going to like affect those feelings more? How we feel about ourselves?
Not necessarily, but I think the negative emotion that's probably the most associated with self-worth is shame.
Okay.
This feeling of like, there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not whatever enough. This not enoughness that we live in Utah, for anyone that is listening that doesn't. But Utah, this culture is a culture of like not enoughness. It's one of the most hyper competitive places I've ever. It is nuts. Mm-hmm. And if you don't actually, you can't just think good about yourself here. If you don't actually feel deep down solid about who you are, you will get chewed up and spit out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why Utah has one of the highest suicide rates in the country. So this isn't a Utah thing, but this is like a universal thing. So I guess I just see this so much like, Corey, I don't get it. Or I don't understand. I know I have worth. I know all these things, but I just don't feel it as much as my emotions aren't matching up.
It's not clicking, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
There's not a full alignment with like spirit and body, basically. So here's an interesting question for you, sir.
Ready.
What is the most important thing for someone to do to begin to improve their self-worth and self-confidence?
Most important thing.
Let's assume it's like this person who already believes that they're a pretty good person. Like they know intellectually they're a good person and that they help people and whatever.
My first thought is like, prove it to yourself. Action. I don't know. For me, there's a lot less doubt when I'm literally able to prove that to myself that I can do it. Then it's like, hey, you can't argue that, you just did. So, but like most important is tough.
It is tough. And going off what you said, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to prove it to myself. I'm going to do all these good things.
Yeah.
And this actually can be a really unhealthy cycle because then I have to prove my worth.
That's why I was like, that can't be like the most effective because you can't always win.
And then just going off that real quick, this belief. So is this true or false? That what I do is who I am. It
feels somewhat true, but it can't be completely true. Like because I don't know whether it's true. Like I agree with that personally to an extent.
To an extent, yeah. The goal for most of us is that most of what I do is a reflection of who I am. But we're not perfect. And we make mistakes. And if I am acting or doing something that is not in line with who I am, then there's a string attached to that going underneath the water. And there's a little bit of a weight that is holding that down. And that is emotions that are not resolved yet. Not always, but we're talking about deeper patterns, deeper habits, addiction. We'll talk about that in a second. Talking about deeper patterns that people have that they just are so hard on themselves about. Like, I just can't seem to overcome this addiction or this habit. It's not because you don't want to, and it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're not seeing what's underneath the water. There's a weight.
The emotion attached.
Yep.
And it's typically shame. But
no, it can be many things.
Okay. So is it the same way that you would find like like emotional tank work or like trauma work? Would it be the same type of process to dive down to figure out what's in there?
Yeah. So if you think of like your story for a second, you have a triumph story, I think. Yeah. And we're all works in progress, but you have a triumph story of your culture, and your Japanese culture has helped you be really humble. But if we're not careful with that, we can take too much responsibility and believe that we are more responsible for our problems than is actually true. And so then we start to feel shame. And, because remember, shame is a reminder that the way that I'm viewing myself is not fully accurate. And so, if you just think of your own story of your journey from not feeling as confident as you want to feeling, I think, pretty confident now and pretty balanced.
Pretty comfortable. There's always room for growth, but yeah. I do understand that feeling. And it's been like a journey of trying to figure out, is this like a savior complex? Is this like a false view of like what I'm supposed to do in my life, like my purpose and things? And I think I'm honestly still working on that weight that I put on myself.
Like the pressure?
Yeah. It's like the weight of the world is on your shoulders all the time because you could have always done more, or you could have reacted better, or you could have, good, better, best is like the thing in your head all the time that that's good, or that's better, but it wasn't the best. It never is, like, that weight of things. It's been a real challenge, honestly, to do that better in a more healthy way. And I just focus on the truth.
It's as simple as that, guys. Just focus on the truth. So let's break that down a little, because I think that's very inspiring. So let's go to this, because I have so much compassion for people that believe that they are great but don't feel that way on a consistent basis. So what you have to do if you're in that situation, person listening, is you have to try to recognize, like, am I getting triggered? Like, you have to start differentiating your emotions into two categories. Like, is this anxiety that's coming up for me? Is this a trigger? Or is this coming from how I'm thinking? If you already believe you're a good person and that, then it's likely that if anxiety comes up strongly or suddenly, that it's going to be a trigger. Now, this is what happens. So I see this all the time, is that someone's driving in their car and they have like this, they have this trigger of anxiety that comes up. And what they tell themselves is like, hey, I'm safe. It's okay. Like, I'm driving, like, there's no problems here. And then that's all they do. And that's not bad initially. That's a good starting point to, like, calm yourself down a little bit. But the problem is these triggers of shame, these triggers of anxiety, when they arrive, it is like that a little emotional M&M knocking,
delivery man.
knocking on your door, and it's carrying an envelope. And you're opening the door and saying, hey, like, I'm good, thanks, so, like, everything's fine. And then you shut the door on them. And they're like, oh,
I walked all the way here.
Dude, I came from this, I swam up from the bottom of your soul.
For you, man. And he's like super mad.
To deliver this wet envelope. And we don't realize it, but it's a self-betrayal. Because these emotions aren't coming from some random place. They're you. They're your younger you. Okay, so they're knocking on your door. And what is the trigger? So the trigger emotions are anger, anxiety, or shame. So when these come up suddenly and with intensity, and you're not thinking about anything, you can know it's a trigger. And you open the door, and it's good for you to be like, okay, like, I'm okay, like, everything's fine in my current environment. But what these triggers mean, what the message they're trying to give you is like, hey, there's still some weight down there. There's still some pain that you need to look at. And so what you need to do is you need to set some time aside later to reflect on what pain is still down there.
Open up the envelope, take a peek.
Yep.
So when you say trigger, does that mean that there's something that happens to trigger that?
It can be nothing. People
just
always,
random, right?
Yeah, people always want it to be something like, oh, like, why does this make sense? They focus too much on the intellectual side of it, I think. And sometimes the way that I break it down is there's a direct trigger and then there's an indirect. So a direct trigger can be like, I ate watermelon and it reminded me of the time when I was, when my girlfriend broke up with me and I was eating watermelon. Like, that's a very direct line, right?
Really close.
Yeah. And that just is like, sometimes that happens. But sometimes it's like, I wake up in the morning, and this is what is so hard for people. I wake up in the morning and instantly I just feel like I'm a horrible person. I feel shame, or I just feel this burst of anxiety.
Right.
Like, what's going on with me? What's wrong with me? And it's like, nothing. You are good. There's just some pain down there, emotional pain down there that you need to, the beginning phase of that is start to take some time to reflect on that. And then you can start the healing journey that we've talked a bit about on the podcast so far.
And would those emotions, are those tied to trauma? Those weights?
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
They are. They're like something that happened, or a story that's being told inside of your subconscious, your feelings. You're actually feeling like a different thing, right? I'm just speaking out loud because I'm trying to think if I have like.
As your friend, let me tell you, you don't have any weight.
Oh,
On the
okay.
bottom of that bowl.
Okay, good. I was like, I don't. I
you're
can work
good.
through those. Like I worked through that this morning. Like that, it was a thought that came up about my girlfriend because she recently had surgery, and I'm like, am I doing enough for her? Like, she's just laying there like in pain. Like I could go get her water. Or I could be watching, and it's like, you don't dote on someone. That's not a health. Like that's not a healthy reaction, and she doesn't even need that. And then I was just like, hey, will you let me know if you need something? She's like, yeah, okay, great. I'll trust you and I'll be there the second you need something. Like it's things like that I had to catch myself thinking like, I want to do more, but that's not healthy. And it's like finding the honest balance for myself and communicating is really, I found for me and her Ashlyn, it's really, really important to communicate those things.
Yeah. So it's like, even though you let go of the, like for you, so, okay, the weight down there or the trauma or the pain, even though we let go of that completely emotionally, there can still be a little bit of a conditioning of the experience in our intellectually or in our brain, you can say.
It's like habit, and you have to like retrain your habit.
And that's a lifelong process.
Yeah.
To be able to take away the emotional influence of that, the emotional drive, a good way to look at it is like, okay, like, you know, there's maybe 3 roots of a bad habit, or there's 3 roots of addiction. You've got emotion, thought, and then physical. Okay. So let's say someone's addicted to pornography. And a severe addiction is when all 3 of those things are going to be hitting. So for example,
Thought.
I have a temptation or thought that I can't control that comes into my mind, like look at pornography. And then I also have an emotional drive to do it.
What would the emotion be?
I was talking to one of my good friends a while ago, and he was like, dude, I know you're a therapist. I want to just like run this past you. And he's like, I've been struggling with pornography lately. And I was like, well, when do you notice that it happens? And he's like, it's interesting. I only notice, it only happens like when I have a date set up. And then the girl's like, hey, like, sorry, like I made other plans.
Oh.
Or when like I really like a girl and she's like, hey, I don't think this is working out.
So like the anticipation or something, and then it like gets taken.
So here's the meat of it. So I was like, that's really interesting. And so what I said to him is like, so this pornography is almost like this virtual woman that never tells you,
no,
I'm not interested
or,
in
or
now.
I'm busy, or
You open up that computer and she's always available.
so it's like acceptance or
love, acceptance. That's what makes pornography specifically such a power drug. Is it's unlike any other drug in that you get a very, we know it's counterfeit, but you get a very real, direct emotional hit from it.
It doesn't matter if it's true.
The brain cannot tell the difference between truth and reality in a moment of fantasy or experience. It engages in that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
so in the moment it's very real, but then obviously afterwards it's like, oh, that was dumb.
The clarity.
Yeah. Like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Let me just say this.
Interesting.
One of my specialties as a therapist is working with addiction, and I've never seen a man that has an addiction to pornography and have it not be connected to rejection or disapproval from women.
Is that the number one?
Period. More, and to go deeper than that, I've never seen a male that struggles with pornography, and I've never seen this where they've grown up and had a mom that they feel very connected to. Okay, so when we're talking about emotional drive, imagine there's a pain down there, there's hurt or rejection down there, or neglect from my own mom that runs really deep that I'm not even aware of. And when I'm stressed, this wound, this mother wound or this ex-girlfriend wound is the emotions are it's driving you to want to look at the pornography, because then if you do, It'll like be this ointment that goes on it'll feel super soothing. It'll be like soothing.
Aloe or something.
Yeah.
Cools it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's actually really sad. Let's say someone as a teenager has that struggle and it's because that, like you said, it's a relationship with a mom or acceptance from a mother figure. Can they heal that like you could with other types of trauma later?
Oh, of course.
Like with your mom, like if you had that acceptance again somehow, or if they came to terms with their relationship with like, or their, I don't know, like, or could someone else fill that space, like a wife or you know what I'm saying?
So think about it. If the wound is from a mom, like what can replace the love? Let's say this person is an adult now. What can replace the love that I never got from my own mom from the ages of 12 to 18? Nothing.
You'd kind of need
Nothing.
You'd need that
A
more.
woman or a wife can temporarily fulfill that, just
Mhm.
like pornography, that will fade.
Wow. But they can heal.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, you have.
I know.
And I have.
I just mean like at any point, that's just a beautiful way to think about that. That like there's still hope. Like for
Totally.
anyone who's been hurt by that, they can go and potentially heal from that.
We're talking about more moderately to severe addiction. There is always an emotional root to it. And for specific to pornography, it's mom or doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to be an absolutist, but that's what I've never seen that not be true. So,
Right.
but the point is there's some wound down there. So the emotions are wanting to, this is the shadow side of the emotion. They're wanting to find that soothing. When someone has a thought, says, look at pornography, this is going to be a good idea. This is going to make you feel better. This is going to calm you down or whatever, some temptation or whatever.
Yeah.
Plus they have an emotional draw to do it. And physically, they
want to.
Game over. There's nothing, if all three of those are firing at the same time, there's nothing you can do. It's game over. So the beautiful hope with addiction is that if I really want to change and I'm really willing to understand the wound and learn how to heal from it, I'm always going to have the temptation to some degree. And I have a physical body. And so there's always, to some degree that's going to seem attractive. But the X factor is the emotional drive. That is addiction, period. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some drugs that are extremely addicting that some people just start off with curiosity and there's not really an emotional drive to it. They're just curious. They try it out. And then that's really sad too, because then
would that be like a more physical?
Yeah, that's more physical, right?
Would just take over them.
Mm-hmm. So those are the three roots of addiction. Now, I want to talk a bit about like the woman side of this when we're talking. I guess we're talking about pornography specifically as an example, and this applies to any addiction. But what's so sad on the woman's perspective is that she ends up feeling hurt, and she ends up feeling that there's something wrong with me. If I was just a better wife, or if we had more sex or something, then this wouldn't be happening. Mm-hmm. Or they end up feeling just really pissed off. Like, how dare you? Like, they take
Betrayed.
it so, yeah. And there's an element of hurt to it that is obviously very valid, but there's a lot of offense taken to, like, how dare you do this? Like, you're an a-hole. Mm-hmm. And how dare you? And I think the main message that we want to send to women is that is really tough. This has very little, if anything, to do with you.
Yeah.
Guys look at pornography in really healthy relationships. Guys cheat in really healthy relationships. And then, of course, guys look at pornography and cheat in unhealthy relationships. So it almost has nothing to do with the relationship. It has some.
Yeah.
But not as much as people think.
Wow. That's such a good point. I've never thought of it that way. You see it in both, good and bad.
So maybe what's kind of an interesting question for us as we're talking about this is like, how does it make sense, like, that someone who cheats or has struggles with a pornography addiction or something? How does it make sense that somebody cheats in a healthy relationship? Because people's main assumption is like, oh, the husband or the wife is cheating.
Must not be healthy.
The relationship must be in rocky.
Some rocky in repair or something.
Like the husband or the wife is not giving them what they need, and so they have to go look for it elsewhere. So yeah, I'm talking way too much, but any thoughts you have on like why does cheating happen in healthy relationships?
Like it doesn't matter. Like that could be a healthy relationship. It could be a poor relationship. They still have that weight from their past. People are really good at putting on masks, and they can do that for as long as, 20 years or longer.
It reminds me of like the longest lasting drug. The longest lasting drug is relationships. If we have a void or a wound, and I find a really amazing person, that person can actually soothe that wound or fill that void for like up to a year, maybe even a year and a half. And then what happens is the honeymoon phase, as people call it, ends. And then that no matter what kind of love you're receiving from your partner, that wound or that void is still there. And so what happens for people is they don't know, they're not aware of what is happening. And so they think it's the other person. Like, you don't love me the way that it's just not the same.
Something's changed.
Yeah. Like the feeling is different. You're not doing this, and starts to get really critical. You're not loving. There's just not love there like there used to be. They aren't aware that this void is there and that they are trying to employ other people to fulfill the void and make them happy.
Freaking truth bomb.
And then they get divorced, and then they repeat that cycle.
Unless they look inward, right?
Hopefully.
Then it would just repeat the cycle.
So this is the great root, the great origin of all addictions, habits, deep unhealthy patterns in relationships, is this void and this wound. And it can't go any deeper than parents. What did I need? That's the deepest place it can go. What core emotional needs? And this is what we talked about last time. So if you want to know more about what we're about to talk about, listen to the last podcast. But what core emotional needs did I have that were not met?
From my parents.
From my biological mom and my biological dad. And we're not trying to blame them. We're just trying, like you said, the truth. We're trying to find the truth to start opening up a healing path for us.
It's a powerful tool for discovery, is the truth. You really won't be able to figure things out very well without it, without looking for the honest truth in things. Like, doesn't make anyone a bad person when they didn't have the tools to get the job done correctly. You wouldn't blame anybody for that if you looked at it honestly. I know that my mom would have given me way more if she had more to give, as far as skills or knowledge. If she even knew that she needed to have that knowledge, I don't think she was even aware until the consequences of the lack of was pretty apparent. And then she was like, oh, shoot,
Yeah.
Have a little understanding.
Yeah, have a little understanding and that their parents, that they didn't get what they needed from their parents most likely, and it's a generational, what do they call it? Generational trauma. And that you can be it can stop with you.
Absolutely.
That's what's beautiful about your story, is the Japanese heritage. It has stopped with you. And I believe it's stopped with me. Dane, we have no idea. We're gonna bring Dane in here at some point and do a Dane session.
We're gonna figure you out, man.
Talk about a mystery.
I will remain a mystery.
But I want to maybe just piggyback on one other thing that you said and that we were talking about, which is that, okay, what's the reason why somebody cheats in a healthy relationship? What's the reason why somebody looks at porn in a really healthy relationship? Well, because remember, it's a self-worth thing. They might think they're great. Most people do. But they don't feel it at some points. And it's a deep secret for them usually. And they There's a saying in addiction that you're only as sick as your secrets. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, obviously. They have this secret that they might be pretty ashamed of. The reason why somebody cheats, or it's because their own self-worth. And like you said, it's a sad story. It's usually not their fault. There's a wound down there.
Thinking about that, just like instantly, if we could spread that word across the board to relationships everywhere, like how many would we help?
What's the truth? And so, like you said, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any other strong thoughts on
I'm just absorbing
relationships and self-worth.
This information.
And maybe it'd probably be really good to talk about is like, what's one of maybe the best things I can do if my partner is struggling with like a pornography addiction or some kind of addiction? How can I best help them?
How important is like communication as far as like steps 1, 2, or 3 goes? Like I always feel like if you can honestly communicate, that's a starting point. Laying it out there, understanding each other and where you're coming from, and then trying to move forward. But maybe there's, I always think maybe it's love. You just like pure love somebody. But if it's a feeling that comes from inside of them, how do you help them from the outside?
What's funny is you're trying to answer that question with another question.
I know, because what do you do?
I'm not the expert. You are too.
Okay.
Well, I'm not the expert, but really you are in this. I promise I'm not just asking you questions so that I can like have a pre-planned response.
I can tell you how I do things.
You are, trust what you just said, man. That is really powerful. Like think about what you just said. Mm-hmm. Communication's a really great, honesty and communicating is a really good starting point. So that's the answer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That is the answer. That is the answer. I think the message is that, you're pretty limited in what you can do if your partner. But honesty and truth, and how can I do that in the right way? There's this passage, this scripture that I'm a big fan of. It talks about when we are trying to influence someone, when we're trying to influence someone, make sure that we are communicating out of pure knowledge. What does that actually mean? Well, pure knowledge is not biased. Pure knowledge is the truth, the objective truth. Mm-hmm. So it's okay if you share your feelings when you talk about, your partner struggling with some addiction or something that's affecting your marriage or relationship. That's fine. We're not saying you can't talk about feelings, but you need to try to focus on the reality of the situation and the objective truth. Example, your struggle with pornography has really affected our ability to connect emotionally.
Like that would be true. Like if you were to say it like that, I'm just like, yeah, so feels right.
There's a bunch of other examples. Like your struggle with pornography has really hurt. It hurts me, and I want to figure something out because I don't want to feel hurt. And I know that you care about me, and I know that you don't want to be hurting me. And so I'm hoping that we can figure something out. Mm-hmm. That's pure knowledge. Women, if you've ever had any experiences with this and you've tried to talk to your man about something, one of the things that you've probably noticed is men are pretty dumb. I'm just kidding. But they're pretty simple.
It's simple.
Their ability to track a 30-minute or 3-minute emotional expression from you are going to be so disappointed. Their ability is like, and I consider myself a pretty emotional man and try to be emotionally supportive and aware. Mm-hmm. And when my wife's going off, it's like a 30-second thing.
you gotta come back.
I'm trying to refocus, but it's hard. But anyways, all the guy really wants to know in most cases is like, are we good? And what do you want me to do?
Yep.
So if you can incorporate that into your pure knowledge communication, like, hey, we're not good right now. Your use of pornography is really hurts. and we need to do something about it. The guy's like, okay,
That would literally probably go just
let's
like,
do something. Like, I'm on board. Let's do something.
yeah.
So really trying to communicate in a more concise and pure knowledge with situations like this out of love is the way to go, obviously.
That can be so tough when there are negative emotions or ramifications,
So
like,
hard.
that it's affected them.
Yep.
Like, man, that is a tough ask, but it is the only way. Like, guaranteed good results.
Let's rewind a little bit and talk
Yeah.
about something that is surely going to help someone in this situation. So, okay, so your partner is engaging in habits that are not good for the relationship, whatever that is. Let's open it up even wider.
Gambling.
Your partner, betting on horse races.
Yeah.
Let's throw a bunch of arbitrary other examples.
Bare knuckle
We got
fights.
10 minutes to think of just list stuff off.
Just like crazy.
They put their socks on inside out.
And on their hands.
And so when you go and hug them, this is getting crazy.
Yeah.
They're engaging in some on their hands. They're engaging in some habit that is negatively affecting the relationship. It may be causing you hurt, but the other emotion that is definitely going to be coming up for you is offended.
Or angry, right?
Yeah. And so I don't know if we've talked about this, but anger is the emotion. The second is it's the emotion on the surface. So if you have hurt or offended that is not getting properly addressed, then it will turn into anger, basically. So anger is simply your body trying to tell you that there's either hurt or offended underneath it.
Something's going on.
Or frustration. Those are the three.
Okay.
As a side note. But offended is definitely going to be happening, and maybe even frustration. So what's really humbling for me in my own marriage and for many people is that when we feel offended, so let's talk about what that is for a second. Offended is anytime we feel judged or disrespected or bothered. I think those are the main ones: disrespected, judged, bothered. Those are the main ones. There's probably a couple more other words that we could use to describe it, but offended covers a lot of ground. So when my husband or my partner is doing something that is affecting our relationship, that might be hurting me, but I'm also just so bugged about it. Like, how I can't believe they're doing that. Like,
yeah. Like it might not make sense to you. Even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in order to communicate with pure knowledge and with love and directness, you have to process that offended first before you talk with them. That is the recommendation.
Makes sense.
So we're going to talk for a second about how to do that. But this is a great teaching in the Christian world and what Christ taught is he says, take the beam out of your own eye, and then you will be able to see clearly to take out what is in your brother's eye. This is exactly what he meant when he said that. It's a powerful teaching. You have to clear out what is yours first, and then you will be able to communicate in this really good way.
I mean, how could you? I love it's the beam in your own eye or the mote in your brother's eye, and it's literally like your vision on that scenario or on this circumstance will be foggy. It will be unclear.
Totally.
You'll be having totally different prescription glasses on before you solve your own crap.
And then men are sensitive to that kind of stuff, or women are too. People are.
They'll catch it and then they'll sling it right back at you.
Or they'll get defensive.
Yeah, with the defensive,ness, they'll just sling it right back and be like, all right, don't start this.
The conversation is going to be a bust.
I've experienced that and the right thing. And that one sucks. Like, it's way better.
My friend, you're talking about a human experience. Yeah, we've all experienced that.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's a normal thing.
So we don't want to come in hot. The equation of offended is disrespect plus a lack of understanding equals offended. So let's just be still with that for a second. So my husband or my partner is doing something that is wrong or disrespectful. But that's not what's causing the offended. It requires my own lack of understanding. And then that's when offended comes up. If somebody disrespects me, that's not enough to cause me to feel offended. I have some control over that. So you need to find more understanding before you go and talk to your husband about his pornography addiction or this habit that is affecting your relationship.
What are some examples of like the understanding that you can gain on your own before going and having that type of conversation? Is it just whatever's the circumstance is, or are they pretty common?
Yeah. To go back to the example of pornography from a woman's perspective, just like a genuine question of like, I really want to understand why my husband, I genuinely, I'm curious. I'm not approaching it like, why is he doing it?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with him?
Past that.
Yeah, because you're not going to get any understanding with that kind of tone and approach. And I get it. You're pissed, and I totally get it. It's hard. But starting to look some stuff up online, maybe even listen to a podcast. Hopefully this will help some people, so it's just trying to look into it and be like, is there something?
So there's like an aspect of empathy and understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Try and put yourself in that person's shoes for a second and see.
But if that's what's powerful about this emotion. If you know that you're feeling offended, and you know that it means that I'm lacking in understanding, that's what it literally means, then you're not going to go rush over to the other person and blame them for this feeling of offended. You're going to try to seek.
I'm going to have to write that one down so I don't ever forget it. Because it's tough to remember in the moment when you're actually like, you feel that,
it's
dude.
So hard.
Oh, it's so hard sometimes. Just be like, I need to seek understanding. This happened to me last night, where I was talking to a friend and some other friends came up who were younger and a lot more outspoken. They didn't know me at all, and I'm a stranger to them, but they were very abrasive and outspoken with how they were speaking to me. And I got upset for a half a second, and I had to I just separated and was like, I need to focus on what I'm thinking.
Right.
Like this, I know I don't have to be upset. I know that they're younger than me and that I don't have to, they weren't even saying anything that mattered. It was just random stuff, but I had to separate and think for a second, I don't need to be offended by this. I need to know why that even bothered me. That was the first, that was the first thing that I was like, why did this bother me? And
so that's great.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
I just realized that happened to me yesterday. That's funny.
Just to validate what you're saying and how relatable this is. It's like when we notice something our partner does that bothers us or that is disrespectful in some way, and we instantly feel offended. Of course, we're going to believe it's their fault. You did this thing. You put your socks on your hands, and I instantly feel offended.
What the heck, dude?
You're obviously, in that case, it is the other person's fault.
Yeah, that's crazy. Don't be doing that.
Yeah, of course. So we make that mistake of it's a quick reaction on our end
that you're almost justified.
Now your feelings are valid. Remember, it's disrespect plus
understanding.
Yeah, so they definitely might be being disrespectful or rude. Rude is another one. Or judging you. That's in most cases that is not enough to cause hurt. This is offended. Okay, so half of it is though we need to take responsibility for our part first. And so that's the power of this spiritual gift of emotional discernment. This is something that you can meditate on and pray for to help me, nature, universe, God, be aware of when I'm feeling offended so that I can recognize it and then take my part first before I talk about it in my relationship.
I'm just picturing what you're saying, and I feel like there's no scenario that you can't get something positive out of that if you're being humble.
100%.
If you actually want that, then you would do that. And if you actually weren't ready for that, you would know because that wouldn't be happening. That process would not be happening in a positive way for you. I've felt myself get stuck at accepting and wanting to know that understanding. And it's well, I'm not ready to know that because I know that it's going to bring me to something where I would have to forgive. And if I'm not ready for that, then I'm blocking myself. And so you really need to know that you're being humble and that your genuine desire is to make a better thing happen.
This is a saying that is very popular, but I think it definitely applies in this situation. It's like, be the change that you want to see in your partner.
Yeah.
We live in a world where we're constantly pointing the finger. Most people are constantly pointing the finger, trying to get the other person to change.
Mm.
You take responsibility first and then see what happens.
Yeah.
If you're actually in a healthy relationship, beautiful things will begin to happen. You become the earth that your partner walks on. You create this stability and this presence for them that is a big part of what love and sacrifice is all about. So, Dane, I want to check in with you, man. Have any kind of pressing thoughts or things that are coming up from you from this?
Only that, like, when you feel wronged.
That's a good word for offended.
Because that's usually what it comes down to for me, what stirs these really strong emotions of either anger or frustration, especially in relationships. Understanding, like, coming at conversations from a place of understanding is not natural, like, by any means.
No. Nope.
It's not a natural thing, right? It's very natural to just resort to, like, these feelings of anger or just, like, rejecting what they're saying, period.
Totally.
So anyway, just some thought. I mean, they're just like observations, I guess, than thoughts, but
that's beautiful. I love the word wronged. That's probably covers that, Dane. That's awesome. That's probably the best word to use.
Kind of encapsulates like all of those, just wronged.
And then people are always trying to expect the other person to be understanding to them first. So what happens when everyone is like this? I have this expectation that because they wronged me, they need to understand me first. But guess what? Your partner's probably also feeling the same way because of how you reacted.
Exactly.
So
you both have to be the bigger man, quote unquote, in the conversation.
He might have started, or she might have started. He wronged you initially, but then because of how you reacted to it, now they're feeling wrong. Like, you're talking to me so rudely. Boom. Now you're in conflict. And that's when you need to step away. Like Dane, and you're saying this is not a natural thing to do. That's why this is actually a spiritual gift. Because remember, your spirit is behind your thoughts and emotions. So you have to step into that space to be aware that I'm feeling offended right now. I'm feeling wronged right now. Oh, that means I'm lacking understanding. Oh, that means I need to disengage temporarily and I need to process this.
Yeah.
And then I can come back and communicate with pure knowledge.
I just imagine like breaking the fourth wall, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off type thing, where he just stops and turns to you and he's like, I'm offended right now. I need to take a step back. And then it's like, that's like, imagine, like, it really is like that. And I mean, the process doesn't work unless someone breaks the cycle. Like, that's a perpetual type thing where one person's offended and then the other person feels like that person needs to do this. And then the other person feels they should do it first. And it's who's gonna be the one to break the cycle. And I think that it starts with you, like whoever you are.
Can I ask a question, Corey?
Please.
I'm curious about this. I've seen time be the thing that heals those feelings of being wronged, but I don't know that it's necessarily like a real healing.
That's a very powerful observation.
Is there any truth to time passing and kind of there being just a natural, there's like the concept of extending the olive, what they call the olive branch.
Like
so it's not
calling a truce or something?
It's not as, like a truce comes about from simply showing rather than telling or expressing.
So the statement of like time heals all wounds. How true is that statement?
But only if there's action on both sides, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah.
It's a beautiful question, Dane. Let's talk about it. So time heals all wounds, true or false? That is fundamentally going to be false.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we define the word wound as something deeper, like hurt. Hurt, basically. Time does not heal that. Sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't, because hurt is, we have to go through the process of feeling it. And if we're in the relationship still, there has to be some repairing. It has to be, like you said, Dane, there has to be some action. But there is truth to, if I've been wronged by somebody and they never take responsibility for that, like say it's a friend or something. If it's not a close relationship and somebody wrongs you, I think time is necessary for that to heal. I hired an employee a while ago, and I didn't realize it in the moment as much as I do now, but it was a straight up abusive relationship. This man was abusive to me hardcore. I won't go into specific examples. It was just gnarly. Maybe I will. He would yell at me in public. It was just, my spirit would shake. I think we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
He never recognized. So I did end up firing him once I came to my senses. And sometimes I'm in the shower and his memory will come back and haunt me for a second. It's not emotional because I was able to let go of the pain of it and that's good. But the conditional memory of it still remains. And so that is where time can't, Dane, that was where time can be valuable to heal. So it just takes time. And so being, because they're just thoughts, that's all they are at this point for me.
Yeah.
And so they come up and they just pass and it's like, okay, they don't mean anything.
Yeah.
So it does take time for that to fade from our memory. So that statement is only true when the wrong is just thoughts and memories. But if you're in a healthy relationship and you're feeling wronged consistently, that needs to be addressed. And there needs to be some accountability there for the relationship to stay healthy. There needs to be an understanding with one another. And so time does not heal that. You have to, like you said, Dane, you have to take some action.
Yeah, I guess the question is, are actions, I mean, actions speak louder than words always, right? But words are important. Words are, in a lot of cases, just as important. I guess in some cases, maybe they are more important. But it's like, are there cases to justify not needing to bring up and rehash old wrongs that have perhaps healed over time from just the relationship kind of mending naturally through action, if that makes sense?
Totally. Yeah. Not offended. It isn't, when we feel wronged or offended, it isn't necessary for us to let go of that. It isn't necessary to bring that up in the relationship.
Right.
It's not. But if it's repeated and then it's probably good to bring it up.
Yeah.
I'll share an example in my own marriage. I love my wife and I don't think she'll mind me sharing this. I guess I'll let you know when this is all released. She's like, what the heck?
That's it.
So I love my wife. When I come home from work, literally every single light in the house is on, even the lamps somehow.
And you don't like that?
This is the combination of the kids. We have no money right now.
That's a lot of lamps.
We're doing better than we were a few months ago, so I'm grateful. But I grew up, this is more my upbringing. I grew up and it's like, you eat all the food on your plate. I grew up, look, we don't have money to buy school clothes for you this year. So if you want to have some school clothes, you got to mow some lawns or do something. Like, okay. I only had saved up enough money to buy 2 Old Navy shirts. And I hate Old Navy. And I spilt mustard on one of them and I still had to wear it. And I got made fun of.
With those huge words print on top.
But my wife grew up in a home of abundance, financial abundance. And so they didn't care about the lights and food. And So whatever, there's always these little differences, right? So my wife, the lights are always on. They stay on all day. I get home late sometimes, and I'll say, "Hey, can you do me a favor?" And she's like, "Yeah, what's up?" I'm like, "Can you try to like just remember to turn the lights off if you're not in the room, like when you leave and stuff?" She's like, "For sure." I'm like, "Thanks, great." Guess what happens? Yeah, there's no change. This is how things go. And next day, same thing. If I'm still feeling bothered by that, what's more important? The $2.80 of having the lights stay on for X amount of time, or my marriage?
Yeah.
Because if I keep bringing this up every day, then it actually starts to turn into criticism. And guess what? I forget to do the dishes sometimes, or guess what? I have my own little stuff. And then if I start bringing that up more,
Tallies.
then she's going to be like, well, okay, can you put your cups away that you always leave on the windowsill or whatever?
Yeah, so the scorecard comes out.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, the scorecards,
Oh, yeah.
please don't pull out the scorecard. Wife, please.
Don't even mention the scorecards.
So I think you get it. That's when it becomes a negative and unhealthy, because then it starts to turn into criticism. Criticism is the definition. Part of the definition is consistently pointing out someone else's faults or weaknesses. So we don't want to do that. So if it's repeated, you're kind of going back to the saving, choose your battles. If it's repeated, bring it up. But Dane, to go to your point, we can let go of so much more than we realize and feel completely loved and at peace. God has helped me let go of so much more than I thought in my marriage. And I think at times in my marriage, if my friends heard about it, they'd be like, are you in a healthy marriage? And I said, yes, I love it. It's so good. And then I'm sure the same side with my wife, that she's been able to be understanding in many ways. So that's the back and forth of a sacrificial, loving, healthy relationship, as an example. So
that is a beautiful example. Even if it's just lights.
I want to go back real quick and talk about a loose end that we didn't tie. We were talking about what's the best thing you can do in a relationship if someone is engaging in a habit that is affecting the relationship. You said, which was really powerful, you need to have some honest communication. Now, what I want to say on that, it's even if you do everything right, there's a chance that they might not respond very well.
That's the fear.
Yep.
Right.
And that doesn't mean you need to run for the hills. But what you need to do is you need to stick to your guns. And what your guns are is, if you're honest with yourself and if you are feeling hurt by something they're doing, the message is crystal clear. What is happening is not good for you, and something needs to change, period. You bring that up with them and they don't want to change anything, that's okay. You bring it up in the next day or 2 days. It has to be, and over time, if they just are not willing to take any responsibility, then this is what John Gottman calls the end of days. This is the apocalypse. This is the end of days of the relationship. It's a matter of time before it begins to.
It stops being some sort of a give and take, or it's not at that point.
I want to just share this experience that has come back to me a couple times. So I was in Italy, and we took our last trip when we had money, and now we don't have any, but we took our last finale, which was great. And I'm sitting in the garden, this beautiful garden in Italy, and I'm doing my meditation and kind of connecting with the trees and the nature. And it was a really great experience. I could sense that the trees were sad, which was a new experience for me. I've never picked up or sensed that trees could actually be sad. And this is all coming full circle. I understood part of why the trees were sad, but after this conversation, it has fully hit me, and I want to share it. I realized why the trees were sad is they were witnessing many people that were on vacation, that were walking around, many, many people over years and years and years, people that we're getting offended and in conflict in that spot. And trees are, for good or bad, trees have no choice. They have to hold on to what they experience, and they store it inside their trunk, their spirit trunk or whatever. I don't know. They store it though. We know that. And so it's this, oh man, I cannot, just this deep, I guess, feeling of compassion that I have. How many relationships have ended? How many families have been broken up because someone just wasn't willing to understand where the other person was coming from, or someone just wasn't willing to understand I'm feeling wrong. Maybe this has something to, maybe I can do something. Maybe it means that I'm lacking in understanding. How many people's life have been completely, just think of kids and marriages and these beautiful souls that they just don't understand this. I believe, I know now this is a big part of what the trees were witnessing when I was on my trip and holding this sadness. And I feel that. And so I get a little emotional thinking about it because it's collectively just, we see this in politics. Most people aren't actually getting hurt, even in racist situations. Racism is horrible, but it's most racism is still under the category of offended. I'm being disrespected. I'm being wronged. And because there's a title of racism on it, I feel justified to just expect everyone else to change. And for me not to find any understanding so I can let go of it, like, it's the great negativity that is only going to get worse in our society and most likely lead to the end of, just like it leads to an end of a relationship, the end of days. Guess what? If it starts happening on a wide universal level, guess what? It leads to the end of society.
Factions of different people everywhere, and no open communication or dialogue. And
in the Christian canon, this is what is prophesied in more than the words that we use. People's hearts waxing cold, people having itching ears, people having ears to hear but not hearing. Some of these powerful statements is it's not all of what we're talking about, but it's a big chunk of what we're talking about.
So would you consider that like humility, like overarching a characteristic of, who are you to be offended? Check yourself.
Yeah. And the sad part is there's a lot of humble, good people that they just don't realize that offended really means that I'm lacking in understanding. Oh, if you're open to it, it can really transform our relationships. And like we said, we can be the example. This is very different than hurt. Hurt is totally different message, but forgiveness, earnest. So I want to start off sharing a sacred story that I've never shared before, that I have been given permission to share from one of my clients. And so the story is very sacred to me. So she is driving in her van with her husband and their newborn baby in the back. And they go through an intersection and someone else is driving 75 miles an hour, high on drugs, arguing with their girlfriend, and smashes straight into their van. Instantly kills their newborn baby. She comes into therapy and she says, I have so much anger. I can't let go of it. And I know that if I don't, it's going to ruin my life. Corey, help me know how to let go of this. This person's amazing. And we talk for a second about how, in order for you to let go of this deep pain that you have. She already knew she would have to forgive this person. But in order for you to forgive this person and let go of this, before forgiveness, there always has to come a certain amount of understanding first. And the session ends and she's like, I don't know how I'm going to find this understanding that I need. And she believes in God. And I tell her, for now, go and pray and ask and tell God what you want and ask him to help you, because he also wants the same thing that you want. He wants you to be able to be free of this deep pain. She goes home, she prays. The next day, her husband goes into work and some random man approaches him and says, hey, are you Chris? We'll say his name's Chris. And he says, yes. And he says, you are the person that my brother smashed his car into.
Gosh.
And I just felt like I needed to tell you about his life if you're open to hear it. And he said, yeah, I want to know. And he proceeded to tell the story of this rough, abusive, neglected boy who was lost. And the husband came home and told my client, the woman, what had happened, this random miracle.
Yeah. And
he tells her about this man. And she said, instantly, when my husband told me this anger melted away like butter. And I no longer saw him as a killer. I saw him as a human being. Such a beautiful story.
Do you think that she would have had that understanding if she didn't have the desire to have that first?
No. She was so sincere. What she seemed to understand so beautifully that that I've noticed is very difficult for many people is, I need to let go of this. This is I didn't cause this pain, but it's my responsibility to let go of it. Otherwise, it's going to ruin my life, period. There's some really bold language about this. This is more my spin on it. This isn't the exact language, but I want to get your thoughts on this, Ernest, and Dane, perhaps, it is worse for the person who doesn't forgive than it is for the person who commits the crime. It is worse for the person that doesn't forgive than it is for the one that commits crime. How is that possible? So this man makes he is high, he's driving 70, and he kills this innocent child. It's horrible. So we're saying, so this comes from scripture, and so that's why we're talking about it. But so you're saying that if this woman doesn't forgive him, that it'll be worse for her than it is for him? That's quite a bold statement. How is that perhaps true?
In those types of situations, let's say it's that situation, that he didn't have any hate towards her. He didn't even know her or that child or anyone in that car. But hate can evolve from the person receiving it. And that's poison. That'll just burn through you for as long as you hold it.
Think about it. In this scenario, this man that killed this innocent child, he could, I guess the biggest word, he could repent. He could find this humility and feel sorrow and find peace in his life at some point. I believe that's possible for everyone. But if she were to not be as clear as she was, and just a lot of people feel like I need to hold on to this as a sense of justice. Like I can't let go of this and let this person off the hook.
Yeah. Or the memory, I can't let that go because that's important.
And forget about my daughter that died. Yeah. So let's talk about that one in a second. Both those are so powerful.
Yeah.
But I can't let this guy off the hook. That is we talked about how Satan or thoughts are very deceptive. That is a direct, strong deception. Because us holding on, think about it. Me holding on to pain, is that punishing someone else?
You're holding yourself on the hook.
No. No.
Yeah.
It's not. We might think it. There's just no way that ever checks out. And then your point is super beautiful as well. I need to hold on to this anger or this pain to maintain the memory of my daughter that died. I don't want to forget her, and so I have to hold on to this sadness or this pain.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that not check out? Why is that a great deception or myth?
I'm trying to think for myself. For me and my parents, I held on to that for a long time. It wasn't about the pain. It was the things that I didn't get. And I felt that I wasn't ready to move on from that child who it's similar to justice that I haven't gotten it yet. Wait. But then I realized I'm the one who gives it to me. And then it was like, oh, then I don't need to hold on to them for that. But yeah, I tried to hold on to that anger for years, and when I was a teenager, I feel like, and it didn't get me anywhere happier. It just felt heavier to hold on to anger, and anger is like the most exhausting thing. Hate.
Oh, anger's energy. It's the
vampire.
It's the big. it's the greatest emotional vampire for sure.
And I just realized where the source of energy was, what the source of energy was, and what it was giving me, and that's a beautiful desire, at least in this story, like to want to hold on to that memory. But it has to be a pure version of the memory.
Ooh, say that it has to be a pure version. That's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know what you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
I think I mean that it's similar to pain being fog in front of yourself. Hate is also a fog because it's pain too in that scenario. And it would taint the memory, wouldn't it?
100%. We wouldn't be able to see that person as they are.
Only the pain that they were in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it actually affects it's a direct lie. It actually then affects our ability to connect with, in this case, her daughter.
A loved one. Yeah.
Yeah. Who now is still alive, not physically. So if that anger would block her ability to actually have a stronger memory and connection with her.
Yeah.
So it's these are direct lies.
They're attacks. It makes me a little bit annoyed, like to know that there's a bad energy out there, or a Satan or a devil that is actively trying to get you at your weakest, make you feel worse, make it twice as bad instead of one time as bad. Like that's frustrating.
100%.
Yeah.
It's evil, yet apparently necessary for that wrestle to happen. She was going through a wrestle. She was wrestling with this, and she was able to find the humility and the truth, as you have been talking about, to set her free. And it's such a beautiful example of when we know that we're aligned with what's right for us, our desire and what we're praying for, meditating on, or manifesting, when we know that that is right for us, you can expect a miracle just like this. When she came in and told me about what happened, we were both crying and we're like, wow. So it was one session. She was in the depths of darkness. And then the next session, she was full of light and gratitude. It was unbelievable.
That really is like a miracle
It is.
for something like that to happen.
And so faith, manifesting, we've been talking, this is such a powerful thing. And to apply this in business, in your relationships, and in all aspects of life, if your desire is pure and right, and you are seeking something that is actually right, you're not seeking money, but I guess what seems to be right, not I guess, what is right for most of us is to channel, if we're really trying to use our gifts to help other people in a meaningful way, like obviously that's in line with what's right for us and what God wants. And so we can see miracles with that too, even if we're healed and and all that stuff. But in this case, great miracle. There's this beautiful, it's reminding me of this powerful symbol in like Buddhism, I think in Hinduism as well, and some other Eastern, and it's that of the lotus flower. This is one of my favorite symbolisms in nature. By the way, nature is the universal symbol to truth. It's so powerful. So the lotus flower, it seed grows in dirty water and in the mud. And then what happens is it slowly grows to the top of the pond or the mud. And then it blooms this beautiful flower that is untouched by the dirt. It's a powerful symbol of, my friend, the story of coming from darkness and pain to this light and beauty and truth. That's a journey that is the part of the human journey, and it's the one that in Buddhism they refer to as the suffering that is necessary. So that's where Satan or the evil influence is so important. It creates the suffering or the pain necessary to actually appreciate life with greater capacity.
And aren't the root systems of the lotus still in the mud?
Still in the mud.
Feeding off of the mud.
Beautiful. So what once was what was stopping it, perhaps, is the source of nourishment.
The blessings turns into a negative, from a negative to a positive.
Look up in ChatGPT the lotus flower, and you will find yourself in that symbolism. It's very deep. That's a very surface. There's so much depth to it though that you can connect with.
That is such a cool one. The lotus is so cool.
The lotus flower. Yeah. And so going back to the deception that happens, I guess maybe one of my last thoughts on forgiveness isn't necessarily an actual step. It is a reward for seeking understanding and wanting. I want to forgive this person. I just don't know how. Anyone that has that pure desire, they always somehow find the answers. And there's little things that happen. And especially if you're seeking it, obviously, then you get exposed to understanding, wisdom, and knowledge. This is the great, in Christianity, this is the power of Christ. This is in Christianity, this is what they refer to as the power of Christ. If you want to forgive, Christ is literally standing by your side and is going to take your hand and show you how. If you're not Christian, this is also applicable to many other. This is the great wind that guides people through the healing process. I've never seen someone have a genuine desire to forgive, like pure and genuine, and not be able to. It's really beautiful. But it's sifting through some of that fear of what I'm going to lose if I do that.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose anything. That if you feel that fear, that is a deception. If you have any fear about letting go of pain, if you have any fear about forgiving someone, it is a great deception. And we highlighted two main ones.
I think there's a third one too.
Please.
It's this will make me weak. if I forgive them.
Mm.
That was, I think, really a big one for me. I was afraid that it would make me seem weaker because I had from everyone around me, without that understanding that I gained, their opinion was there's no reason to forgive. And it would make me look weak in their eyes, but I had the understanding to know that that wasn't true.
That's good. That's really good.
It was just a fear. Lies.
Right. So another maybe nature symbol for that is right now, as we're recording this, it's winter. So the trees are feeling the brisk temperature
on the fingers.
Ooh. And so what are they doing? They're not resisting the cold. They are taking their water from their branches and they are putting it deep into their trunks so that their branches don't freeze and break off, and then they die, and the tree dies. So this is a symbol for what you're saying as well, the importance of not resisting emotion and not resisting change. Fear will try to stop us from resisting change, but we need to not resist it, because if we resist it, our branches will break off and we lose more than we think we are going to gain. So I think we should talk about that for a second. What are some of the ways that people avoid emotions? Because we have a theme of this podcast has been, if you are avoiding your emotions, either consciously or unconsciously, that is not the way. You are, that leads to you becoming lost and disconnected from other people and yourself. Am I willing to go toward emotion and learn and be a student? Then things start to open us from, and that is the path of freedom, peace, fulfillment,
enlightenment
in Buddhism. Yeah.
I feel like, like you said, are you going towards it or are you running away? I think a lot of people do run away from their emotions in the form of tasks, to-do lists, stuff.
I stay really busy.
If I just endlessly do things all day long, they won't even come up. And it works sometimes, but I mean, it won't work for long. But that is one, I think, is just staying overly busy to not have to think about it or feel them.
We might have mentioned this last time, but it reminds you of the Japanese word busy, made up of two characters. The first character is heart or spirit, and then the second character is death. So suggesting that if one is too busy, we experience this death, this heart death, the spiritual death that we're referring to, becoming lost. So that's a big thing in culture. Our culture is like, and it's
busy.
I can't be still, because as soon as I'm still, all this stuff comes up and then I got to get up and
I got to do something. Yep.
So this is a side note, but this is the root cause of OCD. This is one of the main root causes of OCD is what we're talking about. It's a state of too busy, whether it's cleaning, washing your hands, and it's connected to triggers, emotional triggers, that as soon as I feel a little bit of this or a little bit of that, I'm going to go wash my hands, and that gives me like some temporary relief because I'm in control and I'm staying busy. So
interesting.
There's an emotional root to OCD for sure. It's not genetic as people think it is.
So you can create that for yourself on accident.
Well, it's not necessarily your fault, because there's some pain that is there originally that didn't come from you. But yeah, if you have OCD, there's always going to be something underneath it.
Kind of developed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's not just a thought thing.
I feel like there's a big combination there, especially in our society, where it's like, I got to stay busy, but then you're so busy that you're waking up and you're tired, and then it's, I need my coffee, and then it's, I need my 3 cups of coffee just to keep busy and busier and busier. And the combo of that is just devastating.
The culture of busyness is the culture of spiritual death.
Mm-hmm.
Japan knew this so long ago that they literally created the word. They didn't create the word, but the word busy literally means spiritual death. That blows my mind.
And then you look at their business
wisdom.
world, and it's like they didn't even know their own wisdom, dude. Like, what? Because they are overly busy.
They're still trying to come back from the World War II shame, I think, or whatever.
Something. That business world is intense. The
It's
requirements
intense.
and the schooling, all that stuff. But yeah. Busy. I think busy is a big one in our society too.
Busy's a big one. Let me share one that I think is kind of interesting too, as it came to mind as you were talking. So we're talking about, why do people avoid emotions? Or how do they do it? Or what was that the question? What are some ways that people avoid emotions? One of the common things that I've seen that is more subtle is an emotion comes up, like anxiety, and I tell myself, like, everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy. It's okay. Like, you're a great I'm a great person. In the name of, like, I'm trying to be positive with my life.
Yeah.
And say positive things to myself, is a counterfeit, or is underneath that, I'm actually avoiding the messages of my emotions. We were talking about that earlier, but that is emerging more. I've noticed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be positive,
no matter
as long as I'm positive with myself that I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
Nope. I'm actually not a big fan of positivity. I think this is just my own definition.
Oh, I've got my own opinion on that.
I think it's kind of the root of positivity in this context we're talking about is fake. You're not being honest.
Yes. That has always seemed off to me, and it almost seems unstable to me, which is my own view on it. But
it's like, I'm really this uncomfortable thing is coming up for me, so I'm trying really hard to like put a Band-Aid over it.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, calm down. Like, it's not like that.
There's so many ways that people avoid their emotions. I think distraction, you already mentioned that. That's a big one. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones I think that I've seen. And fault, positivity, masking it. It might be good to talk a bit about, like, how to actually forgive someone. But Dane, go ahead.
That's tough. That's how to actually do it, because what you described in that story was this total miracle. And it's like, how do you encapsulate or bottle up, like, a process that might not, I mean, it's interesting because as a people of faith, we believe in the miracle of forgiveness. So it is a miracle.
Yeah. Every time it is, actually.
But for people that might not approach it in that way, where they're like more practical about it, I think I really like the idea that there's a lie that you're going to lose something
if you forgive.
If you forgive or forget. Well, forgetting and forgetting are not the same, are they?
No.
Or are they
companions?
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it's let's say it's different. Like, not. Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's like, let's say something horrible happened to you, and it's something you want to forget. You have to go through the process of forgiveness, and then kind of like what I explained earlier about this abusive employee I had. Like, that's when time can kind of help you forget that. But forgiveness leaves a hole in us, even if we go through the process, and it requires us to then fill it with the lessons that we've learned, or the gifts that have come from it, from these horrible things that happen to people, like abuse and rapes and things like that. Not to discount someone's experience wherever you're at. It's painful, and it can really affect you, but it can turn into a gift if you go through the healing process. And we should revisit that maybe for a second too. But
I feel like it's anytime forgiveness is going to come up, there was pain before it, right?
Yep.
And pain is meant for growth. It's meant for change. It's meant to teach all those things, right? If we allow it. And then, like you said, if forgiveness is the gift or like a cherry on top of your pain that you go through and all of that stuff, it's I'm trying to think of how that would, how you could describe that, because it's like you go through pain, you find out what you need, you look at this um this change that needs to happen, but there's still this stuff, this feeling or these thoughts or this memory that you want to let go of. My question
what's your
is
question again?
how does the forgiveness aspect, that process, we know it's a blessing, we know that it's so healthy for us to do, and it's a miracle when it happens. How does that connect with the process of getting through pain, and the actions and things? Because they're almost together all the time.
The only emotions that we need to let go of to forgive are, well, I don't want to be an absolutist about it, but let's just say, as an example, the first step to forgiving is you want to first identify what it is you're actually feeling. Not to discount offended, but am I feeling offended, or am I actually feeling hurt? Now, if it's hurt or sadness, the first step to forgive is you have to feel that pain. So you have to move the water from the branches into the trunk. You have to accept what is and not swim against the current. So you have to be willing to bear down and to feel it fully, which is painful.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're thinking about an event like a rape or something, that is very hurtful and very sad, what happened. And so the first step to heal is I have to, it's not my fault that happened. I have to feel it though. Okay. So that's the first step. Now, what you were saying beautifully is, now after I feel it, remember, pain is internal fog. So now I see the event, or I see the relationship with new eyes, just from feeling it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, it's really important for it to be on purpose. It can't come up when you're in the car or you see a sign and it comes up. That's not healing you. That is it just bubbling up and then it going back to its place, and then it'll bubble up again. You have to choose to feel it from a place of stillness. Okay, so that's step one. Now that the fog is cleared, now if it's hurt, let's say from an event like a rape or something, then you need to ask yourself the question, what can I learn from this? What deeper lesson can I learn from this? Like you said, pain is meant to teach us. It doesn't matter if it's our fault or not.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's a hurricane. It doesn't matter if it's a horrible person that's causing it. It doesn't matter the source. There's a deeper lesson there to be learned. And if you are resistant to that, you're not going to be able to forgive that person.
That's where
or let it go. Remember, maybe a different way to view it is like, especially in a rape situation, I'm not forgiving them. I just want to let go of this pain.
Yeah.
Those are the same, just for clarification, letting go and forgiveness is the same thing. So asking, how do I forgive, is the same question of asking, how do I let go of pain?
Mm-hmm.
You feel it. And then there's this beautiful saying on step 2 of finding the deeper meaning. And the deeper meaning is going to be very personalized. It's not going to be like, don't get drunk and go to a party again, or don't walk down that street again.
No.
Although those might be good things to do. There's something just for you. There's a, what is it called? There's a ruby without price. Mm. Some other beautiful references. There's something. So you cannot know what that is until you feel it. Feeling it is the necessary first steps to the cloth. You look at it with new eyes. And then what's beautiful is if it's an event, then as soon as you are able to find meaning in the suffering, then the suffering is over. So that's it. You don't have to try to forgive. If you feel it and you find the meaning and purpose, it goes away.
Mm.
Now, like Dane was saying, the memory of it can be a little bit difficult, but if you've let go of the emotions, the thoughts aren't that bad. What makes thoughts and PTSD difficult is when the thoughts bring up the pain.
Yeah.
When those match up. But if the pain is gone and it's just the thoughts,
manageable.
You just let it pass like clouds, and it will take time. Like I said, I'm in the shower last week, and this crazy employee I had still comes to mind, like haunting my shower time. No, it's not that bad. It's just a thought, right? So I just, that's interesting.
Ghost of Christmas past coming to haunt you again.
Only around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So that's the general path. Now,
forgiveness.
Yeah. Now, it's a little bit different, like we talked about last week, if it's like your parent that you're trying to forgive or let go of pain from them, because then it's like feeling it, finding the purpose that has come from it, some of the gifts that have emerged, and then, talking to them is usually pretty important, a loving conversation. But anyways, that's a different topic.
Mm-hmm. I just love how those are so interconnected all the time. I've been having a lot of conversations with my girlfriend, just like in passing and like at night and stuff. We have like deeper conversations, and I just am astounded at like how intricate God's plan can be. And like, if you don't believe in God, just how intricate the universe works for you in this regard. Like any pain.
Yeah. If you are going towards the pain, it's like, it's the law of nature. It's the law of the universe. Like, what's interesting is like, as soon as a tree goes against the natural way of flow of life, whether it wants to or not, as soon as it goes against it, it dies over time or whatever. Yeah. But as soon as we start going against the resisting emotion, swimming against the current, I love this visual. So, and this is very popular in Buddhism. So you're in the river, and the water, there's this deep spiritual symbolism of water. Water is symbolic of truth, and water is symbolic of emotion as well. Okay, so that deep symbolism. So if you're swimming against the current
of truth and emotions and all that,
then what happens over time, the water stops supporting you, you sink, and eventually you will die spiritually. But if you like, you know what? I only have two options: swim against this current, or lay back, float on my back. I have faith or trust that this flow, that the natural flow of emotion and truth is going to lead me to a beautiful place. It's not easy, but it is. You still have to navigate maybe a little bit so you don't hit a rock or whatever. You'll get scratched by branches, but what a beautiful, this is the flow state. This is the way in Mandalorian. This is the laws of nature.
It is.
This is a truth that permeates all living things, especially humans. So resist it all you want. But I think the tough thing is people are not aware of it until they are aware of it. And so that's one of the purposes of what we're talking about, is hopefully someone's wife or husband or someone is like, you got to listen to some of this so that you can maybe have this awareness of what's going on for you and stop sinking in the river of life.
Try and connect the physical things that you're seeing and experiencing to the things that you're feeling and not seeing.
It's just always a beautiful way to wrap it up with water.
Seriously, there's way too much good stuff about that. Like animals in like on the Serengeti travel like hundreds of miles or thousands of miles as a family to follow the water in different places.
The truth and the life. Water.
If you have benefited from this podcast in any way, it would mean the world to us to have you subscribe, to allow us to keep it going and bring on inspirational human beings.